Greetings, Barcadians, and welcome to another edition of Gaming News Weekly with your host, me, Tabs, and my good friend and channel compadre, Rich. Say hello, Rich.
Hello.
So, as ever, what do we do? Every Friday, 5 p.m. UK time, we talk you through the hot topics, at least from our perspective, in the games industry in any given week. We usually go for 3 stories, although we've got 4 this week. And then we talk through a very quick fire round, everything else we couldn't really cover or feature in detail, which we call everything else. But before we get into that, Rich, what do? We always share what we've mostly been playing in a given week, our gaming escapades. So my friend, launch over to you, because yours is definitely going to be more interesting than mine this week. What have you mostly been playing?
So I think I mentioned this last week that I was considering playing is it a Plague's Tale? Is it called a Plague's Tale?
Yeah, I think so. Plague's Tale, Innocence,
I was thinking there was something else in there. Yeah, so I was actually going to buy it after the conversations that we had last week, but then I realised it was actually free on the PlayStation Plus this month. So I was like, oh, win for me. Downloaded that, made a start. I think I'm probably like 35% in there. That is something I really like about the PS5, that it gives you like an overall percentage that you are through a game when you're playing it. I really like that. It sort of gives back like an indication of how much time you've got left to invest in it. I really like that feature, but yeah, really enjoying it actually.
Rap physics, are there a thing?
Yeah, really good, mate. I really enjoyed that. I mean, the first time you experience them, you are like, oh, this is gross. But yeah, you sort of get into it, start to understand the patterns and stuff, and it is really good. I wish there was a bit more puzzling in it. It's everything seems very straightforward. It's very obvious what you need to do more often than not, albeit it is entertaining and interesting. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, to be fair. Really enjoying it. Hoping to get back on it after this. Go on, Tabs.
Well, I was just going to say, pretend I don't know anything about it. Plague's Tale Innocence means nothing to me. In a nutshell, what sort of game is it?
So it's a third person, and I would say it's a stealth. Well, basically, it's not combat heavy. There has been some combat sections, but there's a lot of like running, hiding, like stealth sections where you've got to wait for people to move and pass through them. And obviously there are some puzzling elements with the rats, and you know, like they react to fire. So if you've got fire around you or on you, you know, with a torch or something, they will move out of your way. And then it's kind of how you move from place to place while scaring the rats away, basically. So yeah.
Kind of a stealth survival adventure game.
Yeah, I would say so. And then a bit of crafting in there, not massive part, or certainly not a massive part to where I am now. Yeah, just quite enjoyable to play and just a bit different. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. What about you, Taz? What have you been playing?
As I say, mate, boring for me. Pro Evolution Soccer continues. Just a few sessions of that in the week, and that's about it. Due to play Call of Duty with my friend in Cumbria tonight.
Nice.
But I don't think there's been anything else. I've got Skyward Sword though, of course, which we'll come on to shortly in a review roundup we've got for all you Barcadians.
As in,
that's en route.
I was going to say it's arrived. I was going to say it's early if it's arrived.
Yeah, not arrived just yet, but it's on order. I think it says it's been dispatched in my emails, and yeah, I'm excited to play that. I mean, there's a mixed reception, which we'll come to, but I think it's always one I've fancied because I'd have missed out on the Wii U. So I'm excited to get my teeth into a bit of Zelda again, even though it might not be quite Breath of the Wild. I need to lower my expectations, but
I'm hoping you say it's incredible, and then I'll be buying it.
I think I'll probably just lend you this one, mate. I don't think it's perhaps worth the double purchase, but we'll see. Stay tuned for future Gaming News Weekly episodes of Barcadians for the update on that. But let's move on, Rich. First topic, as we've been banging on about, Skyward Sword HD review roundup. So to kick us off, it's currently sitting at an 82 on Metacritic. So not too bad, broadly positive. So we're going to take it in turns, and I'll kick us off with the first article or review. This is from Nintendo Life. They gave it a 90. And they said, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD introduces a raft of technical improvements and quality of life updates that reinvigorate and revitalise this 10-year-old game. With motion controls more precise than ever before, an alternate button control scheme that totally works, crisp HD graphics, smooth 60 frames per second gameplay, and a bothersome sidekick who's been streamlined to something altogether more useful, this really does feel like Skyward Sword as it was meant to be experienced. Yes, the locking off of instant travel behind the official amiibo is a misstep, but beyond this one issue, what's here is a sublime experience, a technical triumph, and an absolute must-play for Switch owners and Zelda fans. Pretty decent so far.
Yeah,
Rich, takes it onwards.
Games Radar gave it an 80, and they had this to say: Skyward Sword HD gives one of the most misunderstood Legend of Zelda games a second chance. It's an underappreciated gem, one that finds a space to really breathe with a more reliable and relaxing method of control embedded within it. Skyward Sword has its fair share of problems, but it makes up for many of them in moments of true brilliance and defiance against established series conventions. Say what you will about Skyward Sword, but it's good to be out on an authored adventure with Link again, saving Hyrule one inventive dungeon and challenging boss battle at a time. Good stuff.
Yeah, and pretty solid. I mean, the 80... That sounds more like a 90 reading it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
We'll take the 80. And then finally, this little cross-section for you, GameSpot, who gave it a 70. So the various quality of life tweaks that Nintendo has implemented here, welcome as they are, don't fix Skyward Sword's biggest issues. And it remains the most uneven 3D entry in the Zelda series. Even so, the improvements in this Switch remaster make the overall experience more enjoyable, and the characteristic Zelda magic ultimately outshines the game's faults. So yeah, a bit of a mixed one. Sounds like it's not entirely transformative, these new quality of life features that Nintendo have brought to the fore, and perhaps not as comprehensive as some wanted it to be. But, you know, I think I'm going to play it as a little handheld experience, probably stick to the, conventional controls, not really the motion controls. And I'm hoping that'll do me. I'm just keen to enjoy a few Zelda dungeons and just dip in and out of it, around a renovation project in my personal life, which is taking over my world and will be for the next year or so at the very least. So, yeah, what do you make of it, Rich? Does that make you think any more about buying it before borrowing it?
It's really interesting because although I would say for the most part those three snippets of like reviews are broadly positive, you can tell there's a veil of like unspoken disappointment almost in whether it's some of the technical things in there or what. I'm not sure. They sort of say, the issues that are still there, but they don't necessarily say what they are. So yeah, I can sort of see where they're coming from with this. Interesting. I think I'll wait for the maestro yourself to let me know what the true read is on this one. And like I say, I'm hoping good things. So yeah, let's see.
I think a lot of it is going to be a contextual thing because everybody's played Breath of the Wild now, and we know that a game played fresh at that time is always different to how a game will age over the years. Like Ocarina of Time, amazing game, loved it. It's transformative for me. Cast a spell on me like probably no other game I've played since. Yeah, if I play that today, a lot of that magic, of those of what I've come to appreciate from modern games is not there, and it depreciates almost, doesn't it, because of that fact. But Rich, 4 news topics to get through today. You take us on, sir, to number 2.
Absolutely. So Spencer praises DualSense. Wow. And this comes from IGN. When Microsoft unveiled the controller for the Xbox Series X and S, the company played it rather safe in terms of design. The current Xbox Series controller mirrors its Xbox One predecessor with a few small additions. The Xbox boss Phil Spencer says the company will likely update it in the future, and they may take some pointers from the PS5 DualSense. In a recent episode of Kinda Funny Gamescast, Spencer said that although Xbox is not planning on releasing any major hardware such as VR headsets in the near future, it is more than likely the company will make a model refresh of the Xbox Series X and S controller. He also complimented Sony and the design features available on the PS5 DualSense controller. He had this to say: "We're definitely thinking about different kinds of devices that can bring more games to more places. There's probably some work we'll do on the controller," Spencer told Gamecast crew as transcribed by BGC. "I think Sony's done a nice job with their controller, and we kind of look at some of that and think, are there things that we could go and do, that we should go do?" So really interesting this. I mean, I don't think this is a particular surprise. I mean, DualSense sort of took everybody by surprise, and the haptic feedbacks and all these nice little things they've put in there that really gave it a feel of next gen. That's one of the things that people said a lot about the PS5, that the controller really sets it apart as a next gen experience. And I have come to see that as well, you know, that it does work really well, and especially games that are designed for it. We saw that with, was it Astro Boy's Playroom? That was a perfect example of where it was designed ground up to utilize the haptic feedback, and it did it really well. So I think seeing things like that, it's not greatly surprising that Microsoft will want to jump on that train. That tends to be how these sort of new technologies happen. Someone debuts it, and then it's taken away by other companies, and they go, well, that's a great idea. What if we did this with it or this with it? So yeah, I don't find this particularly surprising, although I find it particularly surprising that he actually just said in a statement a compliment to Sony, which I thought was very interesting. What do you make of this, Tabs?
Yeah, I think you're definitely right that DualSense has become a standout feature. I mean, it was only today we were talking with a friend of the channel, Andy, about a game we're thinking about playing together, upcoming multiplayer game. And part of it was, shall we get it on PS5 because of DualSense? Because it really can have that sort of transformative effect on the experience. It just elevates it that little bit more.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, it's good, isn't it? It's good for the industry. This is a very innovative technology, and we want to see that spread, and we want to have gamers everywhere have access to that, and developers. You know, if it's adopted as a standard, well, that just means it's just going to be part and parcel of gaming generally moving forwards, and that's great. That's fantastic. We don't want to see, you know, like some of the 3DS technology, which kind of faded into obscurity. This is something that gets adopted, and that's great. I suppose from a PlayStation fan perspective, I don't know, it pricks some wounds there, you know. That Xbox are just kind of saying, oh, that worked, we'll steal that idea, we'll take that on board, you know, much in the same way as, you know, with Bethesda. Oh, we can't make our own games, so we'll go and buy a load of IP and lock it behind our ecosystem. But that's me being bitter, and I know that's not really fair.
The only thing I would say, innovation always drives the industry forward. Innovation drives, you know, further innovations. So you can only say that this is, you know, a sign of what happens within the industry. Someone comes up with a great idea, it becomes, you know, touted, people like it, other people look at it, oh, we can take it a stage further, and this is how the games industry and technology snowballs forward, you know, and we see more innovative and better things. So yeah, really cool.
And to be fair, mate, final word from me, I'd love to see the vice versa, not obviously about DualSense, but look at what the Xbox is doing really well. Well, one Game Pass, but I was actually thinking the backwards compatibility at a system level, and the you know, the improvements they're bringing to older games from a system level is miles off what PlayStation are doing. And I'd love to have that feature. And that's something that Sony could look at the same and say, you know what, Microsoft are doing that well. I think we're going to look into doing something like that. And also variable rate resolution, is it? VRR. I think that's a feature that the PlayStation needs. So again, it's all these things that we learn from each other. And it's good to see them just be so open about it rather than try and just put it out there and not reference the fact that, you know, Sony did pretty well. That shows a bit of humility really on Spencer and Xbox's side, so applaud.
Agreed.
Right, mate, shall I move us on?
Go for it, mate.
So what we got? Not a favourite topic of the channel, so Google Stadia. The headline reads, Stadia setting bad example? ? So this article came from GameSpot, and this is what they had to say. Google is adding a new way for developers partnered with its streaming service Stadia to make income through Stadia's Pro subscribers. The According to an interview with gamesindustry.biz, 70% of all monthly revenue generated by Pro subscriptions will be split between developers based on how many session days players have spent on a developer's games. Stadia Pro gives subscribers access to a library of streamable games for a monthly fee, similar to other services like Xbox Game Pass. One user playing a game once a day counts as a session day. However, if they play a game twice in one day, that's still only one session day. In the same interview, Google also said that it will introduce a limited 85-15 revenue split for titles sold individually on the Stadia store starting October the 1st until the end of 2023. The company will also introduce an affiliate marketing program for Stadia Pro partners in the first half of 2022. In an interview earlier this year with GameIndustry.biz, Stadia's developer marketing lead, Nate Ahern, said that the service is alive and well. Right, so let's just outline it, mate, in a bit more, a bit cleaner way. So I think basically what they're saying in this first section is that perhaps this is the tip of the iceberg of a move towards a model where instead of actually developers getting money for every purchase of a game, they earn revenue by virtue of how much time gamers are engaged for, how much total time they're playing a game for. So basically, I'll put this in the news because for me, I think that just really encourages and perhaps puts us in the direction of an industry which I think is so dangerous. Because what we might start to see, and I've doomsdayed on all this before, but is developers who then focus on games, as we've seen, live service games that are just solely obsessed with keeping players on this merry-go-round of engagement. So we lose sight of single player, finite experiences that have a real artistic backbone and motive, or we lose sight of the shorter, creative indie experiences, which again are there as finite experiences that want to deliver something, but not just trap you in this constant engagement, this constant loop of, well, in some games we've seen it's almost like a gambling loop, isn't it? Where you get this addictive sort of gameplay loop where you never want to leave it. So yeah, I mean, I'll stop talking, mate. Come in here and help me. What's your thoughts?
So it's really interesting. This model is very similar to YouTube. So YouTube, you make money by people watching your videos. The longer they watch a video for, the more revenue you can achieve because they're seeing more advertisements and that. And that's in essence what they're saying here. So the longer people play games and are engaged with games, actively playing them, the more revenue they will make. Well, I'm sorry, but that in itself is basically what is to stop developers going, okay, well, we'll just make a game of busy work. And you never get to the end, whatever the end goal is that they've promised you that, if you can do all this and you'll get a nice gun that you can shoot people with. What's to stop that taking 100 hours, 50 hours? It's setting a horrendous potential scenario of just games as busy work, just keeping you engaged, doing nonsense, basically.
Well, they're then a means to an end. They're not an end in and of itself. It's not literally a piece of art that's had a vision in mind that wants to put you through an experience which has an end, but it's something you can appreciate, and it's got a higher ceiling in terms of the ambition, what they want to achieve with it. That those sorts of games, merry-go-round games, if you like, they are literally there just to keep you addicted and keep you playing and fixed on that screen for as long as possible, to expose you, as you say, to as many forms of monetization as they can possibly throw at you. It's literally just to take as much money out of your wallet as possible. That's all it is. And yeah, doomsdaying, I know, they only mention it, that's part of it, and I think later on they say something about a revenue split for titles sold. So, let's not get too carried away. But BArcadians, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What are your thoughts? Is this something that's dangerous for the industry? Is it fine? Is it a good thing? Let us know. We've all got a different perspective, I know. But Rich, the last main headline of this week's Gaming News Weekly, take us away.
Absolutely. So Joycon Fix. Interesting. This comes from VGC. VK's channel has a video called How to Fix Your Joycon Drift Permanently, which suggests that pushing down on the plastic around the stick on the left Joycon immediately stops the stick from drifting. Wow. The need then is to find a way of permanently putting pressure on this area to make sure drift doesn't happen. According to the video, which can be seen above in this article and starts the tutorial at 5 minutes and 55, the solution is to open up the Joycon and add a tiny piece of card around 1mm thick underneath the stick's metal enclosure. The explanation given in the video is that over time the metal enclosure holding the stick becomes loose and separates from the stick, separating it from its contacts. By inserting the card, this pushes the metal back upwards, allowing it to make contact with the stick again and remove drift, even if the stick has dirt and dust around it. Well, there we go. I mean, I haven't watched this video. It did the rounds in our friend group, myself and Tabs, this week. I haven't watched it, but I mean, this is farcical. If this is actually the reason behind it, why a Nintendo? Now somebody, an independent person, has put out on the internet exactly how to fix this. I personally feel this makes Nintendo look a bit rough around the edges, because they need to be addressing this themselves, not a third party going, Nintendo have creative people that are creating this technology, whether they're using third parties to make it, they're designing it with other people. Why are they not coming up with the fix? It's a known problem with these, and it still hasn't been addressed.
No, I've seen the video, mate, and I would encourage you to watch it. And kudos to this chap who did it, because I think it's a very young YouTube channel. He had 500 subs, and last I checked, it was up to 2,000, and I'm sure it's been blowing up ever since. But it's a good video. It describes the issue really well, and it describes how he's fixed it really well, and it's very convincing. So we don't yet know if it's the final word on this issue, or if this fix is temporary, and this kind of spacer issue will happen again, even with the cardboard in there. But ultimately, it's progress, and fair play for him to, for trying to get down to the nitty gritty and work it all out.
Absolutely.
And I think, as you say, it is embarrassing for Nintendo that a piece of cardboard can fix what has been such a prevalent problem with all of the Joy-Cons. Even in the kind of integrated Joy-Cons or controllers, if you like, in the Switch Lite. And
I do believe, Tabs, you had an idea for a business model for them moving forwards, didn't you?
Oh no, that wasn't me. That was a comment on the video which said, "Oh well, now Nintendo know what to do with all the Labo in stock, because it perhaps didn't sell as well as they thought." I thought that was a nice little burn.
Yeah, beautiful.
But I'm really hoping this is going to embarrass Nintendo into taking action. I still cynically think that part of the reason why they didn't directly tackle the problem or look into it, because clearly it was possible, because this chap's managed it himself, is because it was commercially viable for them, because they were getting repeat purchases, because people were buying Joy-Cons. Again, it's like an obsolescence, isn't it? It's almost like a built-in obsolescence mechanic. Yeah. To get people to just keep buying Joy-Cons. But at this point, it is farcical. I think there was something that went up recently about the SWOLED, or the Switch OLED model, which basically that somebody had reached out to see if they had actually solved the issue in the upcoming Switch OLED, and they didn't really answer the question and kind of deflected, which almost suggests it wasn't even re-engineered for that.
Yeah, sounds like it. Wow.
So... yeah, either way, you can fix it now yourself if you want to, and hopefully this forces Nintendo's hand into an ultimate fix, because it's not acceptable.
I mean, given how expensive the Joy-Cons are, my last word on this, there's no reason not to try this. Even if you've got Joy-Con drift, it's a controller that doesn't work properly, it's 70 quid to replace it, you may as well just have a go. So worse that can happen.
Maybe for the channel, mate, haven't we got a friend who's got a bit of Joy-Con drift? We could see if we could fix it ourselves for him.
Absolutely.
Do a recording for the channel, maybe. But let us know in the comments, BArcadians, if you're interested in that. And if we get enough attention, maybe we will put it to video for you. But Rich, finally, everything else for us today. What we got? It's a one and only, so I'll let you deliver it.
Yeah, quite excited about this game. Well up my street, and it's Company of Heroes 3 was announced this week. Obviously an RTS game. Looks really good, actually. So I'm excited to see more of that. And since we've been banging on for over 25 minutes now, we're going to call it there. See us away, Tabs.
Yep, so please make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already. Helps to grow and support the channel and battle that algorithm. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with everything Rich and I put out there. Thank you for sticking with the channel if you have, and we'll see you next Friday, 5 PM UK time, if you fancy tuning in. And I think, Rich, that's another one for the archives.
Stamped and completed.